Hey, it's 2021, and we're back in lockdown, and I'm back in my bedroom, but it's okay. I've still got Pro Tools, I've still got plugins, and I want to talk to you today about delay. Delay is it's a deceptively simple effect, um, which is one of the most common, most usable, most flexible plugins you're going to come across and need to use. And I suggest you'd use delay in some form on on every mix you do. It can be used it can be used subtly just to help bed a track into the rest of the mix. It can be used to create a sense of depth and sort of give a 3D shape to a mix, so not everything's up front in your face. You get some sounds that sound a bit further away. It can be used uh, creatively to be a real feature moment and have something that listeners latch onto for a moment. Um, yeah, it's as I said, very deceptively simple and quite easy to learn, thankfully, because of that, but its applications are much harder. So again, this isn't a video where I'm saying this is how you delay a guitar, this is how you delay a vocal. I'm going to go through those two things in terms of how I think you should set up to do that, but there may be other videos and for sort of do this tricks, but I would encourage you to very much experiment and learn for yourself what you think sounds good when it comes to the actual settings. Um, so first of all, let's talk about how a delay works. I'm kind of a modern, I'm assuming in a computer delay, and you do need to learn the history of delays and how it was kind of done in hardware, and I may touch on that, but it isn't the purpose of this video to cover that exactly. So, as I said, very simple thing. In its simplest form of this very simple thing, we're going to take audio in, and it's going to hit the delay, and it's just going to wait there for the set time, measured in seconds, milliseconds. On a computer, you'll very often now be able to set that up as a as a sync. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. You'll very often be able to sync that to your host tempo and use that in musical terms. So you have a quarter beat delay, eighth beat delay, dotted eighth, whatever you want. But it sits there for a certain length of time, and then it comes out. In this form, it's, well, not particularly useful, really. And it's certainly not very musical. All it will do is make your sound a bit late. There are plugins that do this. There's Time Shifter in Pro Tools, but and that is kind of just for fixing phase issues or micro delays. You can sort of create an idea of width maybe with it, but frankly nowadays you're more likely just to drag the audio along a timeline than use a tool like that. So in order to make this delay more musical, more useful to us, it instantly becomes like that if we add in a bypass route for the dry signal to not be delayed. Either we do this in a plugin and you would find a mix style there, so one signal comes through in real time and then the delay waits and you hear that again. In this setup here, you'd get one repeat, or you hear the sound twice. Or if you set this up as a send effect, this whole system will be done by having your dry signal go straight through, and then the delayed signal gets sent to a send and is delayed, and it's kind of outputted and mixed a bit later on. And this is nice. This will help you with single repeat delays like slapback delays, which are very fast one repeat delays, popular in well, you hear it most obviously in kind of rock and roll music, vocals, and around that time in the 50s and 60s, but it's still there, used even subtler now in rock music and occasionally pop music on vocals. What guitars, man? It's kind of a lead thing, just a thickener. This, so yeah, this would introduce an extra dial called a mix dial here. Then the delays really get useful to us when we introduce a feedback cycle here. This brings in several new dials, but the key one being a feedback dial, which is the amount in percent of the output signal from the delay, that's here, not here, gets sent back round into the front of the delay, meaning you'll get multiple repeats. It'll come through once, you'll hear it there, and then you'll hear a percentage of it come round and back in. 100% doesn't take all of this, by the way. 100% I suppose is a 50-50 split. That is equal volume to that. If you dial up to 100%, it's not like you don't have the signal still coming out through the mix and the output. And in this feedback cycle, the more we have our feedback up, the more repeats we'll hear at a steady time, split by the delay unit there. And here opens up all sorts of avenues of modulation or complexity that you'll see inside your delay plugins. The most common being just some filters, a high pass filter, a low pass filter. So every time the repeat goes through, it sounds ever so slightly different. In case of the filters, it just takes off some top, it takes off some bottom, and that sound thins out and kind of sounds like it's drifting away. It's really nice. It sounds a bit like a tape delay style effect. Tape delay was an early form of delay before computers, where we had a loop of tape that ran round in a circle all day long, and it had a record head and multiple playheads. So you recorded onto it once, but you would then hear it 3 or 4 times as it ran past those playheads. The sort of the tempo of that delay, the time of that delay would depend on the speed of the tape running, and you actually be able to turn on the record heads on and off. You didn't necessarily have to hear them all. But there was a natural wear to that sound. So every time it ran past the playhead, the tape would wear off slightly and create a natural decay. And that became kind of really desirable. It was, luck back then, I suppose, or not luck, maybe just kind of a limitation of the technology. But we, with many things like saturation, we've learned to love it and we think it's very musical. So we now try and bring that into our digital realm, where we don't have to. We could get absolutely perfect repeats if we wanted. So I brought a little tape delay style plugin here. You'll notice there's no obvious filter controls, but that's kind of just built in there. It is there, it's just built into the style of this. We have our mix dial, we have a record level, will be an input level, which will be a bit like a tape saturation, the amount of feedback we hear. And there's some subtle things here, which will be like little modulations. Wow and flutter. Does it pitch up? Does it pitch down on the repeat, on the feedback? And we see those sort of things in this plugin here, which is a real basic one. There's your delay time. In beats, if you take the sync off, you'll see it in milliseconds. There's some stereoizing effects. Do the delays appear equally on both ears, or do they echo back like a ping pong, one side to the other? There's a filter, high cut, low cut filter. This is pretty standard stuff. The H delay is very similar to that. I'm going to use this one for my example soon. I just want to talk to you about this delay. It's a bit different though. This is a kind of a multi-tap delay, and it emulates a bit more. It's a bit of digital sound, but it emulates more a bucket brigade delay, in that it was a different way of doing it. When you didn't have tape, you had this unit full of capacitors that took certain lengths of time for the sound to move through. So it was like you had multiple of these in a row. So instead of having a feedback cycle, you would have 4, 5, or 6 of the delay units in a row. And what you would choose to do is tap in to listen after any one of those delay units where you wanted it to. And you can do that on this style delay, where it's got 6 taps, not including the dry signal at the top, and you can turn them on and off. So I can listen to the first tap, the third tap, the 4th tap. In fact, let's play this, shall I? On this guitar line here. Got it bypass. So I can now this is digital. I can individually select the delay time of each tap, how long that's delayed for, create some crazy delaying patterns. I can even set this will on the stereo field, left, right, front and back would add some sort of volume, I imagine. Yeah, you can see the gain going up and down as I move that. So that's like a tap delay where it's going through all 6 delay points, whether you like it or not. You just choose to listen to them on or off. It's a rarer sort to find. So I want to talk to you using H-delay now, which is my favorite delay. I just like the way it sounds. It's very simple to use. It's very quick to use. About the dials we might find on guitar here. So I'm just playing this lead guitar line. Let's turn this on. I've not set this, so I don't know what it sounds like. I'm going to turn my mix dial down to 50% because I have this currently running as an insert on the guitar. So you hear as I dial up the feedback, more echoes. And this is nearly 100. So if you get this at 100%, that will go on forever. It will always keep going. In fact, to put it at 100%. It won't decay from here. In fact, this delay allows me to go above 100%, meaning it will get louder and louder. Which can create some really nice tones and kind of effects. You have to be careful with it because it will go on forever and just continuously get louder until it blows everything out. There's a delay time, which is synced at the moment, but you can have it in milliseconds. Host is whatever the Pro Tools is, and then BPM allows me to set a different tempo. Let's put it at host, let's put it at just a straight 1/8 beat delay. So feedback down at 0 is still 1 repeat. It's not nothing, you still get the 1 repeat. There it is. I'll play it as a blast. If I make it longer, it'll be more obvious. That pitch shifting you heard is because this emulates a tape machine. So when you sped up and slow down a tape machine, it would pitch. Doesn't have to do that. It's just a choice of this plugin to try and emulate that sound, which is nice unless you change your song tempo halfway through like I do here. Then you have to be careful because you hear that. We have filters. So let's just put some of those in. I'll bring up some repeats so we can hear it echoing out into the distance. So every repeat becomes thinner. I could have made that more obvious. Let's do that again. All high frequency. Or you can create just kind of like a bit of a long reverby taily mush if you just have the low frequency, so you don't have much of that definition of note. It's really nice. I like this link dial. It allows me to play with the width steady. Anyway, it sounds about right. It's a bit long for what I was going for. There's also a really big reverb on this guitar, so don't get distracted by that. And mix wet and dry. So if I have 100% dry, I won't hear this. I'll dial it in. You get that. And it's got a ping pong, a basic left right. So if I play it here, you should hear the echoes go left right, left right. We might go right left. Let's find out, shall we? It goes left right, nearly always does. So we're just using these filters, ping pong to create stereo width and to sort of bed this lead guitar in. It's kind of a epic-y sounding track at this moment. So as I said earlier, I'm using this delay as an insert effect. That means it's only on the one channel, and where are we? Here we are. I've got all the others up, I got distracted, sorry. So it's only on the one channel and it only affects this guitar. And that is absolutely fine if you are setting a delay up for one channel and it's only going to affect one thing. And also if that's going to be constant and not turned on and off. So this delay here, I could automate it a bit because there's such a big gap, but I'd want this delay to also work for this bit of guitar over here, which is a bit different, same guitar part though. And it does work for that, so I'll be happy with this. Nice. So that's all good. However, that's the only cases where you should be using a delay as an insert. If it's just for that part and it's basically constant. So you could use that for a slapback delay on a lead vocal, or like this. But in any instance where you're going to want those delays to be turned on and off, most noticeably like a feature delay on a vocal, you're going to need to use your delay as a send effect. The reason for this, I'm just going to set up a send effect. They're called auxiliaries in Pro Tools. There might be effects channels in Cubase, there are effects tracks, aren't they? And then in Logic, I think my auxiliaries too, or they're called buses. I'm going to set this up as V delay, which is what I call my main vocal delay on a track. I'll just pop it there as well. The reason we're setting up like this is, well, two reasons, three if you break it down, I guess. Firstly, processing power. It's not so important now, but I suppose I'm still a little bit old school where every single plugin you add on a computer takes processing power. So you want to minimize it as possible. So if you have got the same delay that multiple channels are using, here I'm going to use this for the main vocal and at least the backing vocals, which I have 3 here. You only want to use one plugin. That will save you processing power. It will also save you from having to click through every time you want to make a change to that delay, click through every single instance and make them all match on 4 different plugins. You just do it to one plugin. And you know, if you get that wrong, you've got different delays all over the place and you'll lose a sense of consistency in your mix. And the second main reason is let's set this up, is if your delay isn't constant and you only want it on moments in the song, which is basically how it's going to want to be on a kind of a feature delay on a vocal, you need to automate the mute of the send to the delay and not automate the mute of the delay. I hope that made sense. I must say it again. You want to automate this here, which is the send. I would automate the mute, or you could automate the level, but it's just a bit more of a hassle, to the delay and not automate the mute of the delay itself. This is because when you turn on, if you're sending constantly to the delay, it's constantly working, and when you unmute it to hear what you want to hear, you'll hear the delay signal from earlier on that you didn't want. And also you might have to mute it before the signal you don't want a delay comes in, and you'll have all of a sudden cut your delay off before it's finished its natural decay. Whereas if you mute here, the only signal that runs through the delay and you keep it constantly unmuted is what you want. And let me show you that. So I've set this up. Send bus 5/6 is sending to this delay, and I'll just find a bit of vocal. Let's take this. Unmute it would help. And I'll do the same with the harmony.
Make them all forget.
Okay, great. So I've also muted the reverb. I might bring that back in a bit.
Make them all forget.
Okay, so let's say we want to delay just the word forget. That's quite a common trick, that you want to delay just the sort of a feature word at the end of a line, fill this gap in the vocals here of a bar or so. What I'd need to do is find my send mute, It looks like I've actually did this in the mix because it's already cut. I'd normally select the area of the word I want to delay and not mute that. So now the word forget should delay. If I solo it.
Make them all forget.
Alright, so it's a little bit brutal because I didn't do any settings changing, but it's there. In this instance, your mix dial, you really need to be at 100%. Must be at 100%, because if you don't do that, you're just creating extra dry signal down your effects channels and losing control of that. So if you're using a delay, if you're using anything as a send effect, reverbs, which must be send effects in my opinion, delays as send effects, anything as a send effects wants its wet dry signal to be 100% wet, and then you control the level of the actual reverb just using the fader on that channel.
Make them all forget and take me.
It's a bit much on the feedback.
Make them all forget.
We're sort of using a bit of feedback to a bit of the filters to make that sound like it's a bit more 3D and it disappears.
Make them all forget.
That'd do. I also like throwing my, sorry, this is a bit more general tippy. I like throwing my delay back into the reverb as well, so the delay itself then has reverb. You should be unmuted. I'm going to take that off.
Make them all forget and take me.
Alright. Oh, I see what has happened. Sorry whilst I fixed this mix. Okay.
Make them all forget.
Nice. And then I'll do the same for the backing vocals, take the word forget.
Forget.
And move that over to there. I missed it. I have, I'm using that one. And it's already moved it across for me.
Make them all forget.
So this trick is pretty common. You don't want to do it for every single last word of the line because it can get a bit tiring.
So I beg.
But I could take beg.
It's all I beg.
And you might do it, say, for the whole chorus. There we go. And there's a whole load of...
London, I don't know
just thickens up now if you do the whole chorus.
what you want from me. I feel like I should go.
Nice. So that turned into a bit more how to use delay than I expected. But hopefully that was useful to you. Key take-homes are the controls, feedback, a mix, a delay time, filters. This has also got like an LFO on the filter, so it would actually create a bit of a pitch and a natural modulation, which you'd find on tape machines. What they do, and then also when to use your delay as an insert. So when it's the only thing that you want to delay and you want it constantly, and when to use your delay as a send effect to another channel, kind of like this when you're sending multiple sources to one delay, which is most typical on these vocal moments, but it can also be for guitar moments too. So thanks for watching. I hope that was useful, and I'll see you next time.